Start off by taking a look at a New York Times journalist visiting Auburn before moving on to the involvement update for the week. Then, we'll inform you on all of the Halloween festivities for the night, as well as the upcoming celebrations for the holidays. We'll also take a look nationally by updating you on the recent tragedy in South Korea and Paul Pelosi's attacker being charged today. Finally, you'll get an Auburn sports update and you can hear all about our pet of the week. All of that and more is coming up next on Eagle Eye's Monday News at 6. Good evening and welcome to Eagle Eye News at 6. I'm Nicholas Wetzel.
And I'm Jillian Byers.
Auburn's journalism students and members of the Plainsmen recently had an incredible opportunity when a special guest came to visit the university. Kathleen Kingsbury is head of opinion at the New York Times, along with being a Pulitzer Prize-winning writer and editor. She came to visit the university after Plainsman editor-in-chief, Destiny Ambus, was accepted into the New York Times core program. Kingsbury will serve as Ambus's mentor while she is at the Times. Ambus described why she applied to the Time Corps, saying that the New York Times is a really prestigious news organization that she thinks would be a good for her to get professional development advice from a place where she eventually wants to work. The mentorship has already begun with Kingsbury's visit to Auburn this month, where she met with journalism students to discuss working for the Times and other internship and job opportunities for the future. For more information about the School of Communication and Journalism and the College of Liberal Arts, visit cla.auburn.edu.
Now, we turn to Coleman Turnipseed, the Auburn SGA Vice President, for our weekly update on what the Student Senate is working on to improve on Auburn's campus. Let's take a look.
Hi everyone, my name is Coleman Turnipseed and I'm the SGA VP. This week in the Student Senate, we had no legislation. However, we should expect to see the timeline for spring elections as well as the changing voting hours coming through next week. The senators are working hard right now to draft all of their different initiatives into legislation, and this week in the Senate Executive Committee, we have 3 resolutions coming through, which will go to the construction of a water line between Louder and Shelby, a draft time limit grade implementation policy, and a study spaces reservation system update resolution. During Senate this week, we had an activity which worked to teach our senators how to best write legislation, and we also wrote 2 bills collaboratively on the floor, which will both be passed in the next upcoming weeks. If you are interested in learning more about the legislative process or potentially running for senator, president, or vice president of your college, please plan to attend the Senate Open House coming up on November 7th at 6 p.m. in the Melton Student Center, room 2107. That's about all from me right now, but if you have any feedback, please refer to the SGA Instagram to find your senators on campus. The Student Senate also meets every Monday at 7:30 p.m. in the Melton Student Center, room 2282. All are welcome. See you next week.
Searching for some campus activities for the week of Halloween? Well, look no further. Involvement Ambassador Bailey Blake is here to give you the scoop on all of the activities and events you can get involved with on campus this week.
Good morning, guys. My name is Bailey Blake, and I'm back here with your involvement update. The first update I have for y'all is that the Involvement Ambassadors are hosting a workshop on Thursday, November 3rd at 3 p.m. on how to handle transitions in your organization. So make sure to stop by if you want to hear more about how to effectively transition in and out of your leadership roles on campus. Up next, the Beat Bama Food Drive will be on the concourse all week raising donations for the Food Bank of East Alabama. So be sure to come hang out with them and learn how you can help fight food insecurity in our community. UPC will have a late night pop-up event on Thursday, November 3rd at 8 p.m. in the Melton Student Center second floor lobby. Be sure to check out their social media about details later this week. My last update I have for today is to be sure to check out all the organization's days on the concourse every Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. to stay up to date on the different ways you can get involved throughout the semester. And just as a reminder, AU Involved has lots of information about everything going on campus, so I encourage y'all to check that out for more involvement opportunities. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to an Involvement Ambassador at involve@auburn.edu. Thanks again, guys, and War Eagle.
When we return from this short break, we'll tell you all about trick-or-treating in Auburn. Then you'll hear about the future holiday celebrations being planned. You're watching Eagle Eye News at 6.
Happy Halloween, everyone! Halloween night is finally here, and we have a few options for you and your family to have the perfect night trick-or-treating. As always, Auburn will be hosting its annual downtown trick-or-treat event. All children and their families are welcome to join in the fun from 6 to 8 tonight. There'll be fun music, balloon animals, face painting, the birds of prey, a fire truck, and the 2022 costume contest. Categories for the contest will include Best Individual Costume, Best Group Costume, Best Pet Costume, Spookiest Costume, and Most Original Costume. Downtown streets will be closed for the event at 5 p.m., and the event will take place rain or shine. Parents must accompany their children to this event. If the downtown event isn't your speed, then there will still be the classic neighborhood door-to-door trick-or-treating from 6 to 8 p.m. Auburn Public Safety will provide additional patrols for children and families going door-to-door on neighborhood streets. We wish everyone a safe and spooky Halloween night.
The 2022 Veterans Day ceremony has officially been set. Auburn's community is invited to honor those who served our country at 10 a.m. on Friday, November 11th. The lineup for this event will include Mayor Ron Anders officiating the ceremony, and the speaker for the year being U.S. Army veteran Mary Shea Ray. Union Christian Church will give the invocation with performances of the Star-Spangled Banner and Land That We Love by the East Sanford School Choir. Parking will be at Felton Little Park, the East Lynn Avenue Municipal Parking Lot, and the Douglas J. Watson Municipal Complex. And parking for the disabled will be available on Ross Street between Glenna Avenue and Harper Avenue.
Applications for the Auburn City Board of Education are now being accepted. Requirements to serve as a member include being an Auburn resident, not being a city council member, having good moral character, having a high school diploma or equivalent, not being employed by the Board of Education, not serving on the governing board of a private elementary or secondary educational institution, not being on the National Sex Offender Registry or State Registry, and not having been convicted as a felony. The board meets every second Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. Members serve 5-year terms with this position beginning upon appointment and ending on May 31st, 2026. Applications are due at 5 p.m. on November 21st, and final candidates will be interviewed by members of the Auburn City Council. You can apply online at their website, auburnalabama.org/boards.
Christmas is just around the corner, and Auburn City is already planning some fun events for their community. The Ho 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 Hike and holiday celebration will take place on December 3rd from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at the Crayer Preserve and Nature Center. This event will include nature-themed crafts, performances, cookies, and hot chocolate with a visit from Santa and Mrs. Claus. As this will be a hiking event, visitors are recommended to wear comfortable walking shoes and clothes. Tickets will go on sale November 7th online, can be purchased online at auburn.edu/preserve. The cost is $15 a person for ages 2 and older, and under 2 is free. This event will sell out fast, so make sure to go get your tickets early.
The Beat Bama food drive is still in full swing. Last year, the university collected 352,389 pounds of food to donate to the Food Bank of East Alabama. You can donate canned foods to any of the BBFD trash cans located around campus or donate money to the cause online. The event will end on November 17th, so you still have 2 weeks to donate to the cause. Since 1994, this competition has raised over 8 million pounds of food for Alabamians without proper access to food. Help us today to win the Food Fight Trophy in East Alabama to beat hunger and beat Bama. When we come back, we'll inform you on the recent tragedy in South Korea this weekend and Paul Pelosi's attacker being charged. You're watching Eagle Eye TV, Auburn's news leader.
An evening of intended celebration turned into an unbelievable night of tragedy in South Korea. Chaos erupted when Halloween partygoers packed into a narrow street in Seoul. Ivan Watson has more from the scene.
The bar district here in Itaewon is now eerily dark and silent after a deadly crowd surge disaster took place in these very streets. On Saturday night, these alleys were heaving with thousands of people who'd come to celebrate Halloween. They were in costumes, they were drinking, and they surged into these areas, and the numbers were quite literally asphyxiating. I've spoken to some French exchange students who say that they were so packed in cheek to jowl that they could not breathe, and one of them passed out.
There were like so many people who were like pushing us, and like we cannot breathe at all for a moment. At some point I had no air, and we were so crushed to other people that I couldn't breathe at all, so I just passed out.
Unconscious?
Yeah, unconscious.
Did you know that people were dying near where you were standing?
No. Like we were just there, and we're just trying to save our life.
The mood here is somber and sad at this improvised memorial that has sprung up just steps from the alleyway where so many young people lost their lives on Saturday night. The government has declared this week to be one of national mourning, and you can see people paying their respects, laying flowers, candles, handwritten notes. The police say that they did not have a manual for this type of gathering. They say there was not a single organizer, and that they had deployed more police officers to this neighborhood than in past years, but their goal was to be focused on battling drugs and sexual abuse, not on controlling the crowd. The overwhelming majority of the victims from this terrible night are people in their 20s. The Ministry of Education say 5 of the victims were high school students, and the youngest, a middle school student. Ivan Watson, CNN, Seoul.
Paul Pelosi, the husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, remains in the hospital after the violent attack at his home in San Francisco on Friday. Meanwhile, the alleged attacker was charged today, as more questions linger about his motive. The safety of government officials is also in question just days ahead of the midterm elections. Mike Valero has the details.
The man who allegedly attacked Paul Pelosi, the husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, at the couple's home in San Francisco, charged with assault and attempted kidnapping today.
The investigation is ongoing, so there's a lot left to do in this case, and we're just moving along and doing the best we can to get the evidence that we can get to our prosecutors.
Police say 42-year-old David DePape entered the home through a back door. Pelosi was able to call 911 at the start of the attack. Officers say they saw DePape violently assault Pelosi with a hammer before they tackled him to the ground and arrested him.
They were actually trying to make target identification, saying, "Where is Nancy?" All of this eliminates the narrative that this is a crime of opportunity broadly.
Even though police have not released a clear motive, authorities believe the attack was intentional.
Definitely, in my mind's eye, there was more to it. It wasn't just the assault, but there's a potential kidnapping or a potential hostage situation here. All very serious.
DePape, described by those who knew him as an odd character, posted memes and conspiracy theories on Facebook about COVID vaccines, the 2020 election, and the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The assault has renewed conversation on political violence.
I mean, it's horrific, and it's horrible, and it shouldn't happen anywhere.
We've got to say, we can have a heated conversation about the issues, but this violence has got to stop.
I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
Amid Russia's relentless attacks, everyday Ukrainians are fighting back with their wallets by donating money to military crowdfunding. Nick Robertson explains why that effort has received a recent boost.
Amidst tumbling leaves, Leisha Kano takes her kids out to play. Hard to imagine 3 weeks ago, a Russian cruise missile slammed into this park. CNN's Fred Pleitkin was there, reporting on the massive new barrage of attacks. Lesia works nearby, remembers it clearly. A colleague was injured. It motivates her to do what she's been doing more and more of lately, donating to military crowdfunding.
Definitely push us to do it quicker and more and more.
In her family, they've been donating for months.
All my family, even my mother, and even my daughter, from her savings, we sent money, and we didn't tell each other.
Turns out they're not alone. Putin's recent assault on Kyiv has drawn instant outrage and a backlash his troops may regret.
12 millions of Ukrainian hryvnias were donated during that week.
Slava Banik helps run a government app simplifying donations. more than 18 million users so far.
So, for example, I make a selections, and then the next step, I just can pay this by the Apple Pay.
And you've now just given $2, more or less, to the army of drones.
Yes.
To buy drones.
Yes.
The stats the day of the big attack, he says, show Putin miscalculated if he thought Ukrainians wouldn't fight back.
Donations on the 10th of October began being bigger, maybe 4 or 5 times more than the day before.
So the attacks made people give money?
Yes.
If all the drones bought with your help took off into the sky at the same time, it would look like this.
Crowdfunding began with the war, is really taking off now. Drone donations particularly popular recently. Some military units actively promoting the impact of donations. In this case, a drone that drops a bomb on Russian troops.
Here is the main place where we collect all the technique, equipment, walkie-talkies, and drones and other stuff.
At crowdfunding NGO Come Back Alive, their warehouse, an Aladdin's cave.
It's like screens from the command post.
Donations buying much more than just drones. Their shelves filling off the back of Putin's attack spikes.
And we collected about $130 million since the beginning of
That's a massive amount of money.
For Ukraine, it's a massive amount of money.
Big money. Government officials estimate many hundreds of millions of dollars across all crowdfunding platforms. Do you mind that the money goes, that it might kill Russian soldiers?
You know, they occupied my country. They went here to kill my children. Why I should care about that?
Winter and more airstrikes are coming, but so too a Ukrainian windfall Putin's troops will reap. Nick Robertson, CNN, Kyiv, Ukraine.
When we come back, we'll give you the sports update from last week with Vince Wolfram. You're watching Eagle Eye TV, Auburn's news leader.
Welcome back to Eagle Eye News at 6. I am Vince Wolfram here with everything you need to know about this wild week in Auburn sports. We will start with some big football news. Auburn head football coach Bryan Harsin was fired earlier today, per release from the university. The press release said, quote, Auburn University has decided to make a change in the leadership of the Auburn University football program. It went on to say that they will begin immediate search for a coach that will return the Auburn program to a place where it is consistently competing at the highest levels and representing the winning tradition that is Auburn football. Harsin will be owed $15.5 million in buyout money. Harsin's Auburn tenure ended with a 9-12 overall record, going 3-10 in SEC play over less than 2 seasons. On Saturday, in Harsin's finale, Auburn's losing skid extended to 4 games as they lost to Arkansas at home 41-27. This was the Razorbacks' first win over the Tigers since 2015 and the first win in Jordan-Hare since 2012. Some positive Tiger football news. John Samuel Schenker now stands as the Auburn career leader in tight end receptions with 68, and Tank Bigsby, who added a 41-yard rushing touchdown on Saturday, is now 11th all-time at Auburn in career rushing yards with 2,520. The next test for the Tigers is a road game at Mississippi State on Saturday night at 6:30. The game can be watched on ESPN2. It was a full week of heartbreakers for Auburn volleyball. Last Wednesday, they were swept by Florida and recorded their first loss at home. The young team then traveled to Lexington with hopes of bouncing back against the Cats of Kentucky, but the Wildcats swept the Tigers on both Saturday and Sunday. Crouch and company are back in Neville Arena to host Texas A&M on Saturday and Sunday. Let's get back on the winning train here because the Auburn men's golf team did exactly that last weekend. The boys clinched their 3rd win of the season and earned the best start in their 75-year history after their play at the Isleworth Collegiate. Brendan Valdez earned the first individual championship with a 10 under 206. J.M. Butler finished 3rd place in the tournament, locking up the 8th top 5 finish of his college career. That's all we have for you tonight, and make sure to stay up to date with all things Auburn sports by visiting our website, eagleeyeauburn.com, and by following our Twitter at EETV_sports. I'm Vince Wolfram. Have a happy Halloween. We'll be right back.
The National Retail Federation says participation and spending this Halloween are expected to return to pre-pandemic levels, with spending predicted to reach a record $1.6 billion. That's higher than last year's record. In today's Consumer Watch, a look at who is spending the most this spooky season and on what.
Inflation and recession fears not scaring away trick-or-treaters this spooky season. According to the National Retail Federation, Halloween spending could reach a record level this fall.
They're planning to celebrate in more ways than they did during the pandemic, but they may be a little bit more budget conscious.
The NRF says 69% are planning to celebrate this year. That's up from 65% last year, 1 percentage higher than 2019. The NRF expects Americans will spend $10.6 billion this year, despite soaring prices.
We know that inflation is certainly top of mind for consumers, but what we're hearing so far is that people are still prioritizing the holiday.
The NRF says consumers plan to spend an average of $100 this holiday. Costumes are the biggest expense at $3.6 billion, followed by decorations at $3.4 billion, and candy at $3.1 billion. The NRF also says younger consumers, Gen Z, are celebrating more than any other age group.
Consumers under the age of 25 are turning out in full force. About 87% say they're planning to celebrate the holiday this year, and we're seeing the highest levels of spending in areas like adult costumes that we've seen in about 5 years.
Now that COVID-related restrictions are easing, they're more comfortable partying, going on bar crawls, and attending social gatherings. The NRF says they're also putting a focus on dressing up this year.
They're getting inspiration from TikTok, from Instagram, from Pinterest, and other social platforms.
For today's Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Amazing technological marvel manages to eclipse the staggering beauty of the Alps, while reining in nearly 2 centuries of train travel. In record-breaking fashion, Jeremy Roth has today's Take a Look at This.
Well, Halloween is finally here, and you're no doubt ready for some hokey holiday hoopla, but first, you gotta take a look at this. It's the mind-boggling maiden run of the world's longest passenger train. Switzerland debuted the amazing technical transportational feat to celebrate the 175th anniversary of the country's first railway system. And the crowds that flocked and gawked at this modern marvel were not disappointed. The engine twisted and turned through the majestic mountainous Albula line, pulling a whopping 100 cars stretched out to a length of almost 1.2 miles long. That's scary long. Speaking of scary, customers at this Wisconsin car wash were treated to a spooky seasonal send-up of the sparkling clean service. The Tunnel of Terror has been making the rounds at Tommy's car wash locations nationwide this season and promised to, quote, scare the socks off your entire vehicle. Let's hope it's not too frightening, though, or else customers might end up having to clean the insides of their car. And finally, wet and wild is how these Florida Keys folks like their All Hallows Eve ballyhoo. The annual underwater pumpkin carving contest took place 5 miles off Key Largo and featured 18 scuba divers carving jack-o'-lanterns 25 feet below the surface. The real winners here were the fish that got to feast off free floating carved kibble from this kooky competition that was nautical, aquatical, and highly methodical. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
Meet our new pet of the week, Wren. This energetic and playful girl loves everyone she meets. Wren is a sweet pup who enjoys a good game of tug-of-war and can't wait to explore all kinds of new places with you. She's 1 year old, spayed, vaccinated, and microchipped. She's also heartworm negative, and her adoption fee is $125. Apply online for her today.
We're out of time, but for more Auburn news, head over to our website, eagleeyeauburn.com, and check out our social media pages. I'm Nicholas Wetzel.
And I'm Jillian Byers. Thank you for watching, and War Eagle.